Thank you for viewing this presentation, Edebeil Streams. My name is Daniel Adam Fink. My purpose in posting these presentations online is to contact biblical archaeologists and Bible publishers. I know the locations of several Bronze Age cities which have not been excavated. I have located nearly 1,000 biblical place names, including every name in Genesis, the Exodus route, and more. Notes on presentation. I am first presenting my findings via Google Maps for two reasons. I am avoiding the act of lying with maps. I decided to use the most familiar mapping tool, Google Maps, as well as commonplace Wikipedia articles to let viewers know that I am not selecting persuasive maps, I am showing informative maps. I know that two-toned names may look less than ideal, but they are more visible. I have also chosen to use Google Maps to show just how frequently the same names are found online, thousands of years after the Bible became printed. I am also using a different spelling to make Hebrew/Aramaic more understandable in English. This terrain map is repeated throughout the presentation. Genesis 16. Hagar flees Judea toward Egyptian Pharaoh. Genesis 16:14. Therefore the well was called Be'er Lahai. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Barad. Genesis 50. Yosef returns from Egypt to bury Israel at Mamre in Hebron. Genesis 50:11. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaani, saw the mourning, that is, Adbeel, in the threshing floor of the Atad, they said, "This is a heavy mourning, Adbeel, to the Egyptians." Therefore the name was called Adbeel Mitzrayim, which is beyond the Yarden. Please feel free to pause any of these slides at any time to take a deeper look at the maps. I decided to show a terrain map and a composite satellite map so that you can see the site and situation of each of these locations and their relationships more clearly. This particular slide shows different desert areas, different roads, as well as the relationships between each of these locations. So you can see anywhere that there is dark, which looks like green, sometimes it looks brown. Typically those are places where there is water, and lighter areas are desert. So the very light is rocky desert, and the tan color is sandy desert. In this way you can see how these roads, cities, and water sources are interrelated. Yismaeli province of Edebeil contains Atad and Be'er Lahai. That means Yismael is a region, and the B'nai are groups of provinces within that region. All regions and provinces within the Bible relate directly to specific archaeological sites, such as wells. In this case, these are the wells or water sources of Be'er Lahai and the Atad. And cities being the Bronze Age cities, which I have been looking at for a year on Google Maps. The entire suite of biblical maps creates an atlas, which can be shown in relation to time and place. Edebeil is a province spanning across Sinai, the Negev, and Tzin to the Arabah. Atad and Be'er Lahai are pivotal junctions. Atad and Be'er Lahai are vital springs on the way to shore within the province of Edebeil. Atad and Be'er Lahai are in fact sister water sources. These well springs are located on forks of the Nahal or stream Basor. The Nahalot/streams Revivim and Atadim are situated precisely where the spice roads and the way to shore intersect. Naturally, the watercourses are the reason why the spice roads of Edebeil intersect here. They provided essential water to Yismaeli caravans, Hebrew shepherds, and Assyrian emperors. This junctional location is precisely why Yosef stops there on the road from Mitzrayim to Hebron, and Hagar stops there on the road from Be'er Sheba to Mitzrayim. Ishmael is raised in this vicinity, where all roads between Egypt, Peleset, the Negev, Yehudiah, Arad, Petra, Eilat, and Sinai converge. At the risk of being long for a YouTube video, I mention all of those places because that's just how important this location is. The way to shore meets the spice/incense routes at water sources. Within Canaan, the way to shore is a route which spans between Kadesh, which is Nitzana, and the route's eastern terminus at Arad, as stated in Genesis 16. Arad, Harad, Barad means Tel Arad and the Arad plain. In the middle of this route are situated the fountains of Be'er Lahai and Atad. Atad on Nechal Atadim, and Be'er Lahai on Nechal Revivim are the chief water sources for 30 to 40 kilometers in each direction between Kadesh, which is Nitzana, Arad, and Be'er Sheba. So you can see on the right side, which is east, Arad, and you can see the flat area that is Barad. That's the Arad plain. A biblical iceberg. This is where I get personal. This is a challenging presentation for me to post. Atad had been lost for 2 millennia, as was much of Ishmael. I might add, Arad had gone unidentified as well. This is a personal achievement which I am showing to you. I have spent 10 hours daily for a year realizing Genesis. That said, this is only the tip of a biblical scoped iceberg. I seek 15 confidential minutes. I can explain multiple Bronze Age / Chalcolithic / Late Neolithic sites, as well as nearly 1,000 biblical place names. More importantly, I have a breakthrough historical realization involving all academic disciplines. That is history, geography, metallurgy, botany, related disciplines. It's very interdisciplinary. It's extremely exciting. And now a close-up on the next page. Meadow is Adbeel. This is the Adbeel Mitzrayim. In the center you can see the only water which comes to the surface of the earth for an entire vast region. So anywhere where you see these agricultural developments, these are where the water table can be accessed. Bear in mind, during the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, and even the Classical Ages, this was a wetter region. But, as you can see, in the bottom left of center, the Center Ramat Negev Desert Agriculture. So you can see this is the place where agriculture can happen. And in the center of the screen, where those streams converge, that is the meadow. That's the Adbeel Mitzrayim itself. Be'er Mashabim, that is the actual well. Be'er Lahai. Now, that has been conjectured for a very long time, but the issue is the Nechal Atadim is the next stream over. That's the threshing floor of the Atad. Adbeel in Hebrew. Adbeel Mitzrayim has 2 meanings in Hebrew. The first understood meaning is morning, the morning of Egypt. You may be noticing this is like the morning of Abel, as in Cain and Abel. So Abel is Adbeel, and that's morning. Correct. The other meaning of Adbeel is meadow. Adbeel Mitzrayim is the meadow unto Egypt. At the heart of this meadow is Nechal Atadim, where the threshing floor of the Atad served the windswept Negev. Even this day you can see the name and vegetation. Same name over 2,000 years later. Every word in Torah has a connotation and a denotation. That is Adbeel. The West Asians, who generated this oral tradition across thousands of years, were the greatest storytellers ever. And it's not just West Asians. This is not a Jewish story. It's not an Israeli story. It's all of West Asia, North Africa, Southern, Eastern Europe. We all contributed to this story together. The threshing floor of the Atad is on Nechal Atadim, next to Be'er Lahai Rai on the Nechal Revivim. These wells and streams are located where branches of the Nechal Basor converge within a meadow, or Adbeel, the Adbeel Mitzrayim. The Nechal Basor, as stated in Torah, is the boundary between Canaan and Mitzrayim. The border is where Adbeel Mitzrayim, an Egyptian place within Canaan proper, would be. Thank you for viewing this presentation. I know that it's a long presentation, but there is so much more. It's the Bible, it's not a short topic. And so, the next two slides are showing the locations and the identities and some of the smoking guns, which I call burning bushes when they are biblical smoking guns. And so I'm just going to run through them so you have a better idea of how these Edebeil streams relate to all of Ishmael. Please view my other presentation, Overview of Ishmael. So the first two, Nebayot and Kedar, that's Nabatea and Kedar. These are known. When you look at them historically, they generally overlap very much, and the remaining B'nai are within that geographical region, which also identifies Ishmael and Hagar. So, the first two afterward, that are B'nai 3 and 4, these form a pair, Edebeil. There are many national parks, which are the UNESCO Desert Cities Spice Road complex of roads and cities. They lead from places like Philistia, which is Peleset on the Mediterranean, to Petra and back. And on the other side of Petra, from Petra to Yemen and places beyond, is Mi Basam. Mi Basam. Basam means spice, fragrance, incense. That's the spice road. So these two make a pair. The next two, Misma and Duma, are on the north and south ends of the Wadi Sirhan. That is the most important water source in the area where Jordan and Saudi Arabia meet. So those four are locational provinces which kind of dominate the remaining provinces. Next we get two groups of three, Masa, Hadad, and Tema. So that's the Wadi Faran and South Sinai, that's Masa. Hadad is the Wadi Ram peneplain, and the Edomite plateau is Tema. The next three, Yetor, Nafis, and Kedem, that's Ituriah, Bataniah, Auranitis, and Kedem is the Mafraq plain and vicinity. You'll understand these a little bit more clearly when we get to the other presentation, but suffice it to say, Duma is identified by Dumat al-Jandal, Yetor is identified by Itorea, Mibasam, the Spice Road. Once you get to the point where you realize, alright, these are very finite, very understandable, they make the rest of the B'nai understandable as well. And when you look at their name order and their locations and significances, it all becomes more clear. This is the 12th and final slide of this presentation, which I find appropriate. Nebayot, Nabatean history and consensus. These are the burning bushes of the B'nai Ishmael. Nebayot is generally agreed upon, and it is accurate. That is the identity of Nabatea. Kedar, likewise. Kedar 8, history and consensus. Edebeil, we will cover this more in the additional presentation overview of Ishmael. So, Tiglath-Pileser III, known as Pul in the Bible, has Edebeil. Now, when you look at Ishmael, Ismail, you have somewhat of a vowel shift, but it's consistent because of the linguistics of this region over time, where people are referring to Edebeil as Adbeel. If it was Adbeel in Hebrew, that you would be looking at an ayin in the center of the name, but it's an aleph. This is Edebeil. This is Edebeil. Especially when you look at this in conjunction with not only the rest of the B'nai Ishmael, but when you get to the point where you're like me and you have actually compiled 850 names, you get to a point where you realize these all are consistent together. So, Ishmael is consistent with Yehudiah, Edom, and the surrounding regions. Midian. I digress. I'm very excited about this. There's so much more. There's absolutely so much more. Mi basam, spice, basmati. It's the most understandable of all of the names. Misma, in the same vicinity as has been conjectured for decades, possibly centuries, there are several wadis: Misma, Tel Misma, Jabal Misma, El Mismaya, Al Mismaya. They're all in the same location. That's Misma. And southeast of that is Duma, which is Dumat al-Jandal and vicinity. Now, Masa, that is southern Sinai, the wilderness of Sin, unto Petra and Edom. Hadad, see my bonus presentation. I'm very excited that there is actually a bonus presentation, which is the most exciting presentation on Ishmael. By the way, it goes beyond Ishmael. Tema, see Biblical Cyclopedia. Biblical Cyclopedia goes into fair detail identifying Taman as the Edomite Plateau. The oasis city of Taman is beyond our region of focus. There are many burning bushes, at least 24, which identify Taman as the Edomite Plateau. Yator is Iterea. There's a Jador Plateau, but that only is part of Iterea. Iterea is a very well-known historical province which would eventually come to dominate the vicinity of northern Ishmael. Nafis, Ibn al-Nafis. I invite you to look up Ibn al-Nafis. Be thrilled with my cousin from Syria and his accomplishments, and all of the cousins and wonderful people throughout this entire region and their incredible accomplishments all over Asia, Europe, and Africa. We can't list all of their accomplishments enough. And Kedem means east, but there's more to that story. So in order to experience more, please see my other presentation, Overview of Ishmael. Thank you for grinning through this entire long presentation. Once again, my name is Daniel Adam Fink.